Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the r/Kollywood podcast. We are here today with an FDFS Pechu for Karthik Subbaraj's latest film starring Surya, and that is Retro. I am Seek, and joining me today are Dart Bro and JK Bro. This will be a non spoilery review of Retro, capturing our fresh out of the first day first show in our respective shows slash countries and our thoughts on Retro. So let's kick this off, guys. What are your thoughts, your very first impressions of Retro?
Retro. Now, look, I tried my level best to keep my hype at a minimum in the weeks leading up to this movie's release, but it was difficult. So, when I walked into the theater to catch my first day first show at PVR Aero Hub, it was a pretty packed house, as one might expect, with this being touted as Surya's comeback and all that. And on top of that, being a Karthik Subraj film. Yeah, I mean, you could feel the tension in the air that, they were waiting for some epic shit to go down. And cut to 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I'd say that part is mostly true. It did deliver on a lot of accounts, but since Karthik Subraj himself has set the bar so high, this one falls just a little bit short.
So when we had discussed Karthik Subbaraj's filmography and looked at Retro's trailer, we had said that this appears to be his most eccentric film. Personally, looking at the final output, I would say the film is less eccentric and more random. Good ideas, but very randomly spliced all the way through, making it, in my opinion, a very underwhelming watch in the end. So that would be my first initial thoughts about the film. I think that you're going to be the contrarian here, probably, and in a good way.
So it was just like last week. I was in the movie theaters watching Sinner, and in the middle of the movie there's a long sequence. I mean, if you see the movie, you'll know where I just involuntarily, started clapping and hooting in the cinema theater, which was like packed. And just within 1 week, my own movie industry, my own Kollywood gave me something yet again where I could see a master craftsman like just weaving his skills along with an impressive technical crew that he had with him and cast, and I was like, this was worth the entire hype I have had for the last 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna tell people to go to the theater just to watch that.
Nice, nice. And I think this seems to be the sentiment with this film, right? People are definitely quite polarized on this film. Some people are loving it. Some people are not really liking it. And there's a lot of discourse that's coming out, which I think, once the film, is watched by a wider audience and, also makes its way on OTT, right? This will be discussed and analyzed and decoded to death. So guys, so what do you think worked quite well for you in Retro?
So what worked in the movie for me? I mean, again, like every other Karthik Subraj movie, this was technically so sound, like just like Mahan Jagamet Tandiram. The cinematography is just like Karthik Subraj's films are so beautiful that you can just put it as a wallpaper on your TV, So this movie is gonna definitely go into that category where I can keep rewatching it just because how beautiful it is. The characters, I mean, I felt this is one of Karthik's strongest characters, like best well written characters, like all of his characters, like Sedu, Mahan, Surli, even Assault's alias Caesar, there's not a lot of reasoning behind why they are the way they are. Like Karthik Suraj always makes sure he gives like one liner, but this movie like goes into the core of a lot of characters, and why they are acting the way they are acting. So I mean, I think that's just a big bonus for this movie. um yeah, the love emotion definitely worked for me. I mean, this movie is, when Karthik kept saying this a love story, I could see why he said that.
Completely agree that I think technically this is a very competent film. I mean, of course, the single shot sequence, the way it's staged, and also the sort of emotional stakes it has, makes it one of those sort of choices that doesn't seem very random. And to me, I think there's a lot of thought put into certain things in this film, the way it's staged and shot. um, of course, I think when we talk about what didn't work, I think some of the other choices they made felt quite random as well. So, but keeping that aside, a special shout out to Surya. I think this has by far been his most complete performance in possibly years now. And also, I think Surya was known for bringing those subtle nuances to his acting, and there are like two scenes which I can think of where you are convinced that nobody else can do it, right? And I think seeing Surya come back with such a strong performance was really good, and so that really worked. The other thing that was really good in this film were the ideas, and in isolation, I would say, not so much in the way they finally played up. There are tremendous ideas at play here, and they go from the absolute small to the to sort of world changing ideas in many ways, right? So also the way it kind of weaves in mythology in its storytelling was extremely well thought, even if the execution didn't really work for me personally when all of it came together as a film. JK, what were your thoughts on retro, and you can also talk about what didn't work for you as well in this film.
And in terms of the biggest things that worked and didn't work in this film for me, I'd say, I mean, this movie is technically brilliant as on par with the rest of, Karthik Subbaraj's movies, the cinematography, the way the scenes are staged and shot, the background score and the songs are all top notch. The cast, while the main character cast's performances are definitely stellar and stand out, I kind of feel like this is a roster of Karthik Subbaraj's characters that isn't as vibrant or memorable. I mean, I don't understand why we needed certain characters like the Jairam character or the other supporting characters like the Karunakaran character. They don't get a lot of screen time to do what they do. Surya is in fine form. I mean, he's the only letdown for his character is with the way the script tries to balance the different shades of and aspects of his character. So I don't think that can be, attributed to him. Pooja Hegde gets a solid role with the screen time that she gets, but unfortunately, the issue with her performance also ties into my biggest gripe with the movie, which is the fact that it doesn't quite deliver on the promise that it is going to be centered around love. While the first half does definitely use that as the driving force for the plot, in the second half it kind of falls by the wayside to focus on a different subplot without giving any spoilers for the movie's climax or third act. Yeah, and that just feels like we were robbed of a story that could have had so much more gravitas and character payoff in terms of the way these are set up. So, yeah, these small niggles kind of hold this film back from being, on par with the best of Karthik Subbaraj's filmography for me.
Agree with what you said, JK, about the second half getting bogged down by its own weight. I think this kind of ties back to what I was trying to allude to in my one line summary, that the choices that they went for in isolation seem okay, and they seem very interesting as well. It's just that when they all come together, it just seems random. The other thing that I think really kind of threw me off big time throughout the film was sort of the tonal imbalance. Karthik's films historically, like Jigar Danda or even Double X for that matter, right? They kind of balance the absurd with the serious quite nicely. And here, I think somehow that balance was really, really off. And to me, that really kind of was a bit of a disappointment, if I were to be honest. Dart, how about you? Anything that didn't work for you in this film?
So what doesn't work for me? Again, like every other Karthik Subaraj movie, Karthik is just a little distracted, or I would say little. Yeah, distracted is a better word because he just wants to tell so many stories at the same time, and in the 150 minutes that he got, I mean, he's kind of repeating the same stuff. But this is something which happened in his other movies too. Like he just wants to say more stuff than just the core plot that he builds early on, where the entire focus is. So that distraction kind of pulls you away from the story a little bit. Still gonna be visually pleasing, but you just get out of the movie a little bit.
So now we've watched Retro, guys. Where do you rank this among Karthik's filmography?
Where would I rank this? As to that, I'd say it's not quite on the level of like Mahan or a Jigartanda. I wouldn't even put this above Jigartanda Double X because this is a very similar film to that. I'd say this sits between Jagame Tandiram and Jigartanda Double X. I mean, lower than JDX, but higher than Jagame Tandiram in many ways. And it feels fair to slot these movies together because they deal with very similar themes and aspects of storyline and all that.
So for me, it is like Jigardanda 1 and 2 at the top, Mahan, then Jagmetandiram, then Iravi, Pisa, Peta, and Mercury. Unfortunately, I think this movie will just be near below Iravi or near Pisa, Peta.
Yeah, I think these are very fair rankings from both of you. For me personally, this is definitely in the bottom tier of Karthik's films. More so considering that he's in his prime potentially right now, and it really doesn't hold up compared to some of his earlier work where he was a lot more raw and more constrained in what he could do. And then finally, guys, do you reckon this is a comeback for Surya?
I mean, honestly, I think after Varnamayaram, I'm finally so happy to get back the Surya that I used to admire. The guy who used to speak with his eyes, the guy in Aidhalathu, the guy in Varnamayaram, the guy in Kaka Kaka, in Maunam Pesede, Nanda, Pita Magan. We had such an actor with us, and we just lost him somewhere after Iron became a huge commercial success. That Surya was brought out again by Karthik Subaraj, and Surya grabbed it with both his hands. My God. I mean, will this be his launch vehicle? That I don't know. I have no idea how the industry works at this moment, but the directors can see what he's doing, and of course, our other big guy Lokesh has a character ready for Surya.
I don't know if we can tout it as a comeback because all said and done, this is not your average family movie. And if a movie needs to do big numbers these days, it kind of does need to be a family crowd puller. That being said, as far as I could tell from my theater, word of mouth is generally positive, so I think it'll, have a good first weekend run. But the other issue also exists that there is competition for this movie in a big way through the other releases, Hit 3 and Tourist Family. So my guess is that it'll do the same kind of numbers that Jigartanda Double X did, where it'll be profitable but not on a blockbuster range by any stretch of it.
Yeah, very well put, guys. I think it's fair to say that Surya, the actor, is really back with a bang after Kangua, and literally anybody who watches Retro, independent of what they think of the film, will probably have zero complaints about Surya's acting. So really, definitely a comeback for the performer in him. But is Surya the star back? Well, I guess time will tell. So we'll leave it at that. So, guys, this was our FDFS page for Retro. We hope you enjoyed it. What did you think of the film? Please drop your comments on Retro and also feedback on the podcast below. And we'll be back very soon with another episode of the R/Kollywood podcast. Peace out.